Hello everyone, Zach with AI Automation Elite. Today we are going to use replicate.com to fine-tune an image model to be able to maintain image consistency, brand consistency, anything that you want an image model to produce on a consistent manner. Let's get started. The first thing you need to do is go to replicate.com and create an account. Once you've done that and signed in, you should see something resembling what you see now on the screen. Now clearly this is a used account, and so you won't have usage and recent predictions and things like that. But the general structure is the same. What you need to do is be on the dashboard right here where you have these options. You want to be on the dashboard and come over here to search. And we're going to say Flux Dev Trainer. Might help if I can spell. And what we want to do is look for Ostrus Flux Dev LoRa Trainer right here. And it has this kind of melting circle icon. Let's click on that. And we are ready initially to start training our model. There are a few preparation things that we need to consider first. All right, this tells you the price. So this is using an Nvidia H100 GPU, which costs 0.001525 cents per second. So about 1/1000th of a cent per second. These models will typically run about 15 to 25 minutes to train, which falls in the $2.50 range. The other thing is that we want to prep our image data. This is really important, so I hope you pay attention. It says here that they recommend a minimum of 10 images inside of a zip file, and too many images hurts the training. Not enough will also hurt the training. I found 8 to 15 to be really good numbers. 10 to 12 is a really great number. Some of the important considerations. If you are doing a LoRa training on a person, always include one body shot, head to toe, so that the LLM knows how to attach the head to the body. If not, you may get some really weird shapes that are not consistent with the person that you're trying to train it on. So one headshot, also clear, consistent, nice images. Try to avoid too much background, really where the focus is the person. And also you want to have front shots, side shots, up, down. You want to vary those shots to provide the training algorithm a solid understanding of the person. So what we are going to work with today are a few animated images, Pixar style, that I have used another AI to create. And specifically this is a Viking let me grab that over here. A Viking with an orange mohawk, a bit redheaded, a little bit of a solid character. Okay. And so these images, as you can see here, are of different styles. I do have a couple of images with multiple facial shots and body shots. So here's a face, different, facial structures without a beard or a smaller beard, different styles. And we also have one that's like this that shows our character in different motion. Name your images in a consistent manner. There are two important things. One is this key, and we'll talk more about it, but this is a nonsensical, all capital word that the AI will know when you use that. It refers to this particular training. So VKNG, obviously Viking, but Viking, the LLM knows what a Viking is. They give the example of TOK, T-O-K, which is a great one because it's nonsensical. It really doesn't have a value. The next thing you want to do is have an underscore and say what the image is. Now this is a graphic design. Okay. If it's a photograph of a person, you would say Viking underscore photograph. And then you want to sequentially number your images. 0, 1, 0203. Additionally, we have this text file that has the exact same naming except it's .txt. This is optional, but what this allows you to do is put a one-liner that describes the image. So this would be, something like Viking pose left, right, standing straight. Okay, maybe if you're doing a person, it might be, man wearing red t-shirt with baseball cap. And they don't need to be very advanced. Once you've done your image numbering and the optional text file, then what you want to do is zip this all up because we'll need that zip. So I'm going to move this over here and we're going to look at it. Now, here is the trigger word, okay, this key, and it recommends talk or cyberpunk. This way it knows what the association is. Now that you have your images prepared and they're in a zip file, let's go ahead and get started. Now we are going to use the form, but they provide the Python and the Node.js. And if you're using a tool like make.com or N8N, where you want to create images or use these LLMs anytime you want through the automation tool, you can use these right here. This provides you everything. Notice it's quite small. There's not much to it, and they provide you everything, even so much as the create documents. Everything for it is ready to go. So it is super easy, but we're going to work on the form. So the first thing we need to do is go to select model. Now I want to create a new model. I'm going to call this VKNG LoRa test. Oops. And I'm just going to leave it public. Now we need to input the images, upload the compatible file, in this case a zip. If you're on a Mac, you'll tell it to compress it, but it'll still come out a zip. And we're just going to take that and drop that right there. Now in this case, our trigger word is going to be VKNG. Notice all caps. Trigger word should be in all caps every time, so it's very easy to know that it's not referring to something else, especially when it's something normal like giraffe. Right? You would want all caps. Now here's the captioning. If you did not create the TXT file, you can tell it to auto caption, and this works quite well. So I'm going to leave it. I just wanted to be able to provide you an example. It won't hurt. If you did not prefix your, in this case, VKNG, you want to add that here. So perhaps you just had graphic design 01, graphic design 02, and you want to rename it, if you will. You can just put VKNG right here in front of it, and that will provide that captioning for it. We don't need to worry about the suffix. Now, steps and LoRa rank. I found here that their recommendation, 500 to 4,000 out of 3 to 6,000, is a pretty good range. The more steps you have, the longer the training will take. And generally speaking, it will provide you a better image up to a point. I found that above 1800, it tends not to work as great. So I'm going to go to about 1500. Let's just make this 1500. Now the LoRa rank, which is a default to 16, again you have a minimum and a maximum. Higher rank takes longer to train but can capture more complex features. Now what's important to know here is that the higher this ranking gets, the more exact it will be and the less creativity that it finds in it. I've found 12 to 20 works really good. I'm going to leave it at 16. In your training process, there is no finite rule. Part of it, you're just going to have to try it a couple of times if you're not happy with your first one. Okay, we don't need to add these in, but if you want to add a Hugging Face repo and API key, you can. This will save your trained image. And then WNB, right? These are also weights and biases. if you want to set up an account, but they are not needed. And finally, make sure that you have the important stuff in here. You've named it, you have your images, you have your trigger, and you have picked your steps and LoRa rank. You're ready to go. Now I'm going to click Create Training, and let's see here, enter a valid name. Oh yeah, I forgot. They require VKNG, all to be lowercase. And we are ready to go. Let's create it. Now, what you're going to see is the output, and it's going to say running. This will take anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. So what I'm going to do is pause the video, and when it's done, we're going to come back and take a look at it. You don't need to sit around for this. Go grab some coffee, and I'll see you in a minute. All right, we are back. 18 minutes and 20 seconds as the run time to create this LoRa. Now, what we want to do is if we look at dashboard and we come over here to dashboard, we can see that the cost went to $2.26 from 58 cents. So this was about $1.75. Now we want to actually use it. So if we go to our models, and we have this Viking LoRa test here. Let's go over here. There's some information about it, right? These are the things that have happened if we want to, make it public usable. What we want to do, though, ultimately is test it. So let's go to our prompt. And remember that we need to use our trigger word. So let's say VKNG, wearing a suit and tie. Now, there are other options you can change down here. You could change the aspect ratio. You could specifically make a height and width. You can change the prompt strength. This is when using image to image. Okay, so we're not using image to image right now, so we don't have to worry about it. We're going to use the dev model. How many outputs? We can change this up to 4. Let's just do 2. We can change the inference steps. More steps will give you more detail, but it takes longer. And then you can also use guiding scale. This is a pretty good default. These are pretty good for where they're at. They've tested them quite a bit, and I generally, at least to start off with, will go there. Now, the one thing I do not like WBP, I like PNG, so I'm going to change that. And you can come down through here and test these different ones. But let's click Run. If we come back up to the top, we see that it's queued. It's now running, and we're going to get some logs. It's going to go through the inference steps. Remember, we were set at 28, so that's 14 to 28. So it's about halfway done with the first one. We'll just let that continue for a minute. Now, this is what's interesting. So this particular one was much closer to this as a person. And so when you're working on your training, let's just do this. Let's say VKNY. Let's just do that. And we'll let this run. What we want to know is whether or not our training was successful. And we can see absolutely that it was. Now, we have one here, which is very close. Clearly, these three are on point with the exception of this particular one has gray hair. So what we want to do is, let's pick this one, and that's quite good. We know that it's not the exact one because the structure of these three characters doesn't exist. So we do know that the AI was picking it up. What we want to do is, let's add to examples so we have it. Let's go to tweak it, and we can start to tweak it. And we can say Viking holding a battle axe, and we can begin to run it again. Now look at our weights. Again, we're at the 28 inference steps, so it'll take 28 steps. And this is how you train a LoRa. Now, it's important to understand quality begets quality, garbage in, garbage out. This is quite nice. We had to kind of wake up our LoRa, get a little bit of thought process there by doing just VKNG, just calling our Viking. After that, we've started to really see how we could use this. This could be used quite a bit. The more quality images that you have, now notice I only had 7 and they were just randomized. We have the tattooing, we have the, the structure, the I don't know what you would call these on the suit of armor, but they are consistent. Now there are some inconsistencies, obviously left side, right side. side, you'd have to adjust that. But let's say holding a battle axe in his left hand. Yeah, let's just go there. Now these images cost about 2 cents a piece. And I think to really get a good test, you need to do about 10 to 20 images after you've trained it. So you're talking around $2 to fine tune, kind of pick your model. And you may have to do 2 or 3 models to really get a good grasp of it. Left hand, I think that's right hand actually. Left hand is, on the left side, right? We have to learn how to work with the AI. Sometimes it is too literal, sometimes it's not enough. So you do have to practice with it. But for a couple of dollars, you can see we do have a trained LoRa image that can consistently produce this type of carry. I hope this helps. Please like and subscribe if you find this content interesting and exciting. In my school community, we also work with a lot of AI, lots of automations, and really looking at how automations can be used to grow your business. I hope I see you soon. Happy coding, happy automating, and take care.